I'm not doing it. What?
Are we doing just one break or do you want to go through it
That's the
today?
thing I gotta figure. We'll try for one. We'll
Okay.
try for one. Yeah.
I'll give you the countdown. If you decide to skip, just feel free.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity, with your host, Dr. Virdra Jackson. On our program, we explore the flip side of every story. And when you open yourself up to both sides, you'll realize that there are life lessons, powerful tools, and so much more. Now, here is Dr. Virdra Jackson.
Hello and welcome to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Virdra Jackson, the CEO and creative of Living Strong Consulting. And I'm excited about our conversation this episode because we have launched our July theme, which is movement that leads to healing. And we're going to unpack movement, all different types of movement, not just physical movement, but emotional, social, relational movement, movement that allows us to move forward in our lives. And we're kicking it off with a very good friend of mine. And those of you who know that I love running, and I know many of you don't understand why in the world I would love running, but I do. And I have a fellow runner with me, but she's not just a runner, she's a marathoner, a swimmer, and a cyclist. So she's going to kick our theme off this month around the mind and body connection to healing. So let me tell you a little bit about Demetria Davenport. She is a seasoned executive with over 25 years in the financial services industry, advocating, equipping, and empowering people to achieve financial success. She currently serves as Vice President of Community Banking and Compliance Officer at the United Bank of Philadelphia. She has held key roles in training, consumer banking, retail administration, and human resources. In her current role, she provides leadership to the community banking team, which includes oversight of the bank's financial service centers and driving community development within the bank's footprint. Demetria's passion for community development extends beyond her work at United Bank. She is, as I shared, a advocate for physical wellness as well as financial wellness. She has taken a special interest in creating intimate learning spaces to equip women with the tools needed to better manage their money and obtain financial freedom. In addition, she is an avid runner. She is actively involved with Black Girls Run, where she served in a leadership role as BGR's Philadelphia ambassador for 2 years. And she continues to serve as a run coordinator, helping to transform the lives of women who are seeking to make wellness a way of life. So I get a chance to share my friend with you as we talk about that mind and body connection to healing. Welcome to the show, Demetria Davenport.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. V, or Deirdre, as we love, it's so funny. But thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to talk about movement and talk about how it impacts your mind. I will say I had to dig a little deep about it, but like you said, we share that passion of running, and so I just feel like I'm just with a friend on the asphalt having a great conversation. So I'm looking forward. Let's dig in.
Yes. And you know what? You already got started because there are so many transferable themes, concepts, even down to mindset.
Yes.
That I have literally used while running, getting ready to quit. And my mind is, I had a trainer for a period in time who said, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I will say that as I'm getting ready, I'm like, I just can't go another mile.
Right.
And those concepts will come to me and I'll push. And literally, there have been times where I've said to myself, this is an example of the very next opportunity. If you stop now on this asphalt,
right,
it's representing how you're going to stop in the next hard thing you do in life.
That's right. That's right.
I love how we're going to cover all of that.
Yes.
She's so excited.
So we have a great analogy. So running, like you said, it is just, it will just be our prelude into so many things of how it impacts what we do, how we move through life. And it absolutely has transformed my life.
So I'm curious, have you always had a passion for running? And working out?
Some days I don't think I have a passion now.
I love it.
Oh, some days I don't think that I have a passion now because it's hard. Some days are harder than others. When I look back, as I dug into my story, I thought about, where did this start? How did it all start? And I grew up in the city, and I was a rec center girl, so I spent a lot of time at Ridgeway Rec Center. And there I ran track, I swam. That's where I believe I learned how to swim, like thinking back between there and a Y. But also there is where I learned resilience. We, as children, we played out. I'm of that age where we played outside, where we were with children every day. And we were in the thick of things. You got into arguments, you got in a fight, you dealt with it. And then you came back the next day and you did it all over again. But a lot of that activity, a lot of my competitiveness and those things, I believe it started way back when, at the rec center, in the community that I grew up in. So my passion for it probably dwindled as I got into those teen years, because now I was concerned about my hair, how I look. I'm like, I can't run. I'm going to sweat out my press and curl, and all of those things. And picked it back up. I picked running back up at age 41.
Yes.
At age 41.
Another where our paths cross. Yes.
Yeah. I looked at a picture of myself on Facebook. I had on one of those twin sweaters, and the buttons were pulling. And I said, "Oh gosh, I need something more consistent in my life." I do walk. I live about 2 miles from my job. So I've been a walker for a while. And so I would walk those 2 miles, more so, not really for exercise. It became a mental release for me after work, to take that 2 mile walk home. It would just clear my mind. But then I realized that just was not enough to manage what I was starting to see. I chuckled as I listened to some of the podcasts where menopause is not the boss of me. And so, at that age, you start to see those changes. You start, those things don't move like they used to. And so that's how I picked up running. And it really is an interesting story. I was at a wedding, July 1st. I remember the date. I was at a wedding and met someone who said, I was introduced to Black Girls Run. I believe it was in a Zumba class because I started in a Zumba class and met someone who, talked about Black Girls Run. And I was like, oh no, that's too early. You meet at 5:15 in the morning. Oh, and you meet at Bull House. I had all these excuses as to why I just can't do it. And when I met Rosalind at this wedding, she said, oh, we meet at 3 blocks from your house. She said, I'll see you tomorrow, because this was a Sunday and they met on Monday mornings. And before I knew it, it came out my mouth. I said, okay. And I was like, wait a minute. I just made this commitment. I said, okay, I'm a woman of my word. I'll be there. So I said, but I'm only going once. Like, I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to go. And that's how I ended up. That one day has turned into 9 years later. Today is July the 7th. So I've just celebrated 9 years of running.
That is amazing. There's so much wrapped up in what you just said, from the fact that you sometimes don't feel like running.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes you don't feel like working out. And I think many people are waiting for that emotional, yeah, let me do it before they get started.
Yep.
And when they can understand that even a triathlete sometimes doesn't want to run, doesn't want to work out.
No.
And then that whole concept of when you saw yourself and that was not how you felt you wanted to stay or remain, and recognize you had to do something different,
Right.
that it's making those decisions and then being willing to release the excuses.
Right. Right.
Is there anything that you would say to someone? Because I feel like that was a moment when you just said 41. My story, I didn't realize the age you were when you started. It's, again, something really similar. I played all types of sports as a child and even as an adolescent, and I lost it somewhere. And I remember it had to have been either 40, 41, walking a flight of stairs and being exhausted and completely out of breath.
Right.
And I said, what happened that I can't do what I am called to do if I can't walk a flight of steps?
That's right.
What would you say to someone who knows that there's more for them to do, but excuses are meeting them every morning?
Right. And so, I think I share with you, I have these Beatitudes. And one of my Beatitudes is to be proactive. Like, we see the signs, you see them, your doctor is telling you, you're looking at yourself, and you don't really need anyone to tell you. So we have to really start to be proactive about our own health. And in ministry, I think about it, from the spiritual side. Oftentimes, in the Black church, we say, oh, God understands, he knows, and it's, like, it's okay. But I recognize that if I'm going to be my best, if I'm going to be of my best service, I not only have to be concerned about how I look, how I feel, how I study, how I move. And so my physical being, my physical well-being is just as important to my ministry, to my family, to my life, if I'm going to really go forth and be all that I can be. I can't do that if I'm not well. I can't. You can want to do you can want to do a whole lot of things, but if you aren't well physically, you just can't go. You can't go. Your body will not allow it. It'll be a point that your body will shut down.
Yes.
Your body will not. You can't just, people say, oh, I'm just going to drag it along, and I'm just going, and that's not good.
Right. Like, why drag it along? I think I'd shared this with you as you talk about ministry. When I walked that flight of steps and could not breathe, one of the things that allowed me to get on the other side of depression was movement, and it was specifically dance. And I knew that I wanted to dance.
Right.
And there were people who, now I'm not a formal dancer.
Right.
I did the little childhood classes, but I'm not a formal dancer.
Right.
It literally was movement to heal my spirit from brokenness and hurt. And in that process of moving, people would share how my worship literally just impacted their soul. And so there became this element of, I want to do this to the utmost to represent and to full body go into worship and dance and do it in excellence, not perfection, but do it in excellence.
Exactly.
And the way I did it, because the thing that I loved the most were flags. And if anyone has seen flaggers in dance, you're holding a 6, 8, or 12-foot pole with a flag on it, and you're running the room with this flag. And if you can't walk a flight of steps,
That's right.
I couldn't do it.
That's right.
So I actually started running so that I could build the lung capacity to dance, because that's what I wanted to do in excellence.
Exactly. And so you have to start somewhere. You know, people think you just tie up your sneakers and you step out the door and you're a runner, and that's not the case. So that first day out there wasn't running, it was walking. Someone walked with me, you know, blocks, and then eventually I got to where I'm going to walk a block, I'll run a block, I'll walk a block, I'll run a block. But it was really about being proactive about my own health, about where I was and about what I saw, not just, you know, letting it go and acting like I didn't see the size change. And, you know, with the, you know, we do 3 different sizes in the closet, deciding what size we're going to pick this week. You know, you have to be proactive about it. And so moving from that place of, I don't like this picture, my why, I call it, you know, what's your why? What's your driver? And so at 41, that was my driver. Your why evolves. Now here at 50, I'm like, oh, I need movement for life.
Yes.
Movement has now become a lifestyle, because I recognize what I do today impacts what I look like and how I feel and what I can do down the line. And so now movement is just a lifestyle.
So one more question before we dig into that why, because I think that is so important. For the person who actually has seen you, for our social media family that's watching, saying, I'm never going to be Demetria's size.
Right.
I'm never going to wear that size. I'm not going to look like her. I want to make sure we underscore that this is not about a particular size of dress or suit, and it's not about a particular number on a scale.
That's right.
Can you unpack that a little bit more for us?
Absolutely. So the joy of the women who I do run with is I get to see women of all different sizes accomplishing the goals I've accomplished and more. Because it really is not about your size. But what I say is we really need to be in tune to things like our numbers. You know, how many of us know our numbers? How many of us are in not just the number on the scale? Because a lot of times we're looking at the number on the scale and the number in our dress size, but we just disregard the blood work. You know, we disregard that whole chart of things that came back from our doctor that he's saying that we have to deal with, and how movement helps to move those numbers.
Yes.
And so it's not about, I've seen some women who are much heavier than I am, that are in better health than I am, accomplishing more than I'm accomplishing. So no, it's definitely not about my size, but you know what's good for you.
Yes.
And so people can, you know, they may look at me and say, oh, you don't need to do anything. I'm like, but I don't feel good. So you know where you need to be to feel your best. And so this is about you. This is about owning your health, owning your well-being. So you can't look at the sister on the left You can't look at the sister on the right. Now, those sisters may be there to be part of your village, but it's really about your commitment and the work you're willing to do to be the best you.
Yes, it is all about you focusing on who you want to be.
Absolutely.
And I love how you brought in that statement of your why. For those who have been following since the beginning of January 2022, we started what's called a girlfriend gathering, and we meet 6 times in the year of 2022. We're getting ready to have session 4.
Nice.
But in session 1, we specifically challenged the women to not just focus on do goals,
Right.
but focus on who goals.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be?
Yes.
And I think that really ties perfectly with the awareness of my why.
Yes.
So who do I want to be, and why do I want to be that? And I think that then leads into the strategy, the consistency, the determination.
Absolutely. Because, you may start for, if you go to our group page, there's pictures and there's posts, and people want the likes. But when it's cold outside, when the sun is coming up later, when you have this goal ahead of you, why are you getting up? What's going to motivate you to go forward? What's going to motivate you when you're not getting the likes, when it's not on the post? What's going to cause you to really shift your mindset? I think you mentioned that what's that why that's going to really help shift your mindset to say, I'm going to do this regardless of how cold it is. I'm going to do this regardless of if someone else comes out or doesn't, or if I have to walk out my door and do it on my own. I am going to do this because I know where I'm trying to go. I know what goal I'm trying to accomplish. I know, what I need to do for myself. And so it definitely, you have to start with a mindset shift.
Yes.
And before you even get to all the other things, if you don't change your mind, you will not change your habits.
I think that when we think about something like physical movement and activity and the desire to pick up more of an active lifestyle, people are focused on external habits. Could you share with us what are some internal habits or mindset shifts that actually need to happen first before you begin to really latch on to the external habits that might change the body?
Wow, that's a great question. And so when I think about internal, you start to think about, like I said, initially, mine started with a picture, just looking at myself. But it was bigger than that. It was about, girl, you 40 now. That was a milestone. Like, we just leaped. So you start to think about age. You start to think about goals. You start to think about, for those that might have children, you start to think about your family. You start to think about, where am I and where am I trying to go? And am I going to get there like in the shape that I'm in?
Yes.
And not just your physical shape that you're in, but am I going to get there in this mental state that I'm in? Am I, and so I think it's definitely what's that internal driver, like what's motivating you, and sometimes we just lack that motivation. And so you need the girlfriends, you need those accountability, which I know, we look at that. You may need someone, because I have friends that say, well, I can't run, and I say, I don't want, you don't have to run. Running is my thing. But you do need your thing. So whatever your thing is, I just want you doing that consistently. So find your thing. If your thing is walking, if your thing is swimming, if your thing is jumping double dutch, if your thing is dancing, whatever your thing is, I just want you moving because I know that that movement is going to change your thinking. I know it's going to change how you feel, and it's just, but you have to self motivate.
Yes.
You have to, make sure you're taking in those things that's going to get you going. You gotta listen to the podcast. You gotta listen to the words. You gotta get those things that's going to really motivate you to do something different.
That really feed your soul, that feeds your mind.
Absolutely.
It's changing that internal, emotional, and mental diet, as well as the physical diet.
Absolutely.
And when you said, you looked in the mirror and said, girl, you're 40, I immediately thought about when I was suffering from a period in time of depression, which was actually brought on from a long period of consistent toxicity and poor relationships. When I decided that I did not want to leave the legacy of brokenness to my daughters, I got up. And I think it's powerful when we desire to be willing to ask ourselves, and I even think there's some power in the fact of looking at yourself, because there have been a couple of moments where I've listened to either podcasts or some type of message where I've heard someone say, I went for X number of years not looking in the mirror.
I've heard that from many people.
It shocked me. It shocked me. And so it's that internal work and the power that happened when I finally decided to look in the mirror.
Right.
Not the quick glance, not the, oh, am I okay? And move on, but actually look at myself.
And not just looking at your physical, but just look, like you said, really soul searching where you are. There were relationships, there were fears, there were, really starting to dig into who is Demetria?
Right.
Who is she?
Goes? Yes. Who?
Yes.
Who is she?
Who
Not
is
what
she?
Not just what she does.
Right. Absolutely.
But who is she?
Right. I mean, I've been a banker my entire career, so I know what I do, but who am I? When someone says, because naturally you meet people and they automatically say, so what do you do? And that was one of the joys of the running group. No one asked me, what do you do? What do you do for a living? Who are you connected to? We had one common goal, and that was running. And I love that. As I got to know people and spent time with them, I started to learn like, oh, that's Dr. V. That's not just Virdra. That's Dr. Virdra. But at that moment on the asphalt, it was just about running. We shared one goal. And I think that's important because it helps to build healthy relationships. And so, we've been able to build healthy relationships out there, but it also causes you just to have to dig in and really see what you made of. Like you said, am I a quitter?
Exactly.
Because when you out there, you can say, I'm done with this. I used to say to my running partner all the time, like, make sure you pack your SEPTA-Pass just in case we not get on this bus.
I love it. I love it. But you have to be willing to ask yourself the harder questions and give yourself the space to listen for the answers. And recognize, what are you being called to do?
Yes.
And I love how you said, are you well enough to meet or fulfill that assignment?
Are you well enough?
Wow.
Because you might have the desire, but your body is saying no.
Oh, and what a disservice it would be for a moment to be ready to happen and I'm not there because I wasn't well enough to show up.
Exactly.
Oh, This is good. This is good. And we are getting ready for our first commercial break. So hold on, because we have only scratched the surface. There are many more things that I would love for Dimitria to share with us around not only the physical transition, but also the financial transition. How does movement, what does movement and what she's learned from running, how does that translate into everyday life? So stay tuned, stay connected. Don't miss the next part. We'll be right back.
You're clear?
Awesome.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, wow, sisters. Hello, Cheryl. Yeah, she says, I love the importance of getting to know people, building relationships versus what a person can do. All right, ladies, what questions do you have for Dimitria? Put it in the chat. And if you would love to call in, the live call-in phone number is 1-888-346-9141. And put your comments or questions into the chat, and we'll try to pull one of your questions on the air. I love seeing all of our wow sisters. And you literally, Kia said, find your thing.
Yeah, find your thing. Yeah.
You hit on something that Dr. Witt said in her segment, to know your numbers.
Know your numbers.
Know your numbers. And it's not about your dress size or your scale.
No.
There's a whole nother set of numbers.
Whole set of numbers.
Cholesterol, blood pressure,
My gosh.
heart rate.
Thinking,
Right. And I
like, how could they, why they not moving? Why they not changing? Put those potato chips down.
Put the potato chips down. Pick up the shoes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's coming down our street, y'all.
I don't know. I don't know. The potato chips, it might be a keeper.
I'm glad she's not on air, y'all.
Listen, but
truth, come on.
But yeah,
come on.
the truth is, you again, know what's your thing. This is not about depriving yourself.
Yes.
This is about enjoying everything in moderation. And so I'm not going to I'm not going to get out there and run and work out 5 days a week and not enjoy the things that I enjoy.
Yes.
But when you know your numbers, when you know that, when you have that information, you know to what level you can enjoy.
Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, I'm not depriving myself.
We are coming back.
And so, we're not going to talk like that. We're not going to say, like, put down the kettle chips.
This is Living Strong, the flip side of adversity with Dr. Virdra Jackson. To reach the live show today, call into 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to info@livingstrongllc.com. Now, back to Living Strong, the flip side of adversity.
Welcome back. And we have been having a conversation with Dimitria Davenport. She is a marathoner. She is a swimmer and a cyclist. And she's just been honest about the process of starting small, staying consistent and determined, and understanding why you're doing what you're doing when you recognize that there is a call, an assignment, and something that you're on this planet to do.
Yeah.
And will you be well enough
Right.
to get it done?
Absolutely.
I'm curious, how does what you've accomplished through running actually translate into other areas of life?
Sure. So when I think about my furthest distance, I think about being a marathoner and how I, let me just say, for those who don't, a marathon is 26.2. Don't leave the point two.
Don't leave the point two.
26.2 miles. And I think about, how do you accomplish 26.2 miles? And oftentimes we hear this saying, like, life is a marathon, not a sprint. I clearly understand that statement now, having run multiple marathons. And so, and doing that, you take those things that require, like, so it requires the discipline, it requires the determination, it requires commitment, like to, to get up early, to run 4 and 5 days a week, to really push through. And when you run a marathon, we don't train up to 26 miles. We train up to about 20, 21. That last 6 is grit and grind.
Yeah.
They say the race doesn't start, a marathon, I tell you, the race doesn't start till mile 18. Right? And so when you take that and translate that into life, there are those moments in life where you are in the grit and the grind, trying to push through a situation, or where you feel like you're in mile 18 of your life and you're just really trying to make it to the finish line. Like, you can see it, you know it's coming, but where is it? And I think about when I ran Philadelphia Marathon, it was very windy. And they took down all the mile markers because you know how big they are, and they blow. So you don't know, we didn't know, and without knowing, because I'm a Philadelphian and have run those streets some of it I knew. However, as I approached the finish line, I couldn't see it.
Wow.
Right. And oftentimes we are pushing to the finish line and don't even know it. Wow. And so therefore you got to dig in. You got to have, we have mantras. Like I have these running mantras, like mile 16. I'm like, oh, this is easy, like Sunday morning. I have these mantras that, that will just help me get through. I can do all things, that helps push me through. And there are times that I am sitting at my desk with those same mantras.
Yes.
Girl, you can do this. Just hang in there. You can get through this. Just push through, and you can do the hard things because you have done hard things. And so I know that I can do the hard things. However, if you don't have that internal push, you say, I'm quitting. People have gotten a mile 22, 23, and I'm done.
I couldn't even imagine.
Can't imagine. What?
But that is so connected to life. That is screaming for me. There have been times when I've been running, and it is often when I must take a hill, and I will be running, and the thought will be to stop. And my mantra is, you are on the threshold of your next. And I keep running, literally with a door frame in my mind's eye that I'm running to. And the door frame just keeps moving further along the path.
Right.
But in life, how often have people gotten to their threshold,
right,
and quit just because they couldn't see
it?
Just couldn't see it.
If I did not know that finish line was there, like I said, because as a Philadelphian, I knew where this race ended. But they had, like I said, when they moved the mile markers, you're thinking like, where am I? And sometimes that's good, for runners. Like, you don't necessarily have to see every mile of the journey, like, because you're like, oh, I'm only at, and it's the same thing in life. Like, we don't see every mile of the journey. Sometimes we don't realize we've progressed as much as we have, and that's why we're thinking like, oh, it just got hard. For a marathoner, we run 16 miles very regularly. So that's why they say it's not till about 18 that the race really starts to kick in. Your hamstrings get a little tight, your quads are tightening up, your calves might be hurt, whatever you might be feeling, and you don't even realize, you just start resetting. You have to start resetting in your mind, because this race is really almost over.
Wow. Yes.
You're really almost to the finish line and may not even know it. And I think, for that woman, that man, whoever might be listening and saying, I'm just ready to give up because I don't feel like I'm making progress, may have to just go back through the records. Look at your watch. For us, we look at our watch. We look at our watch to see, are we on pace how are we moving? It's going to tell us our heart rate. How are we feeling? You might have to look at your watch, look at your notes, look at whatever it is to kind of see how far you have traveled, and know that, let me hang in there. I can do this.
Right. There's a whole sermon that came to me while you were talking. I need to pass it on.
Okay, preach that.
No. That's not my lane. But I need to pass it on to a preacher, because when you said that they took down the mile markers, that would be devastating for me, because Broad Street, I thrive on seeing those flags with each number as I go along Broad Street.
Right.
But how often in life are we looking for familiar markers to try and tell us where we are?
Right.
When actually God is trying to tell you, I have given you what you need. Just run your race.
Just run your race.
Stop trying to look around for what you expected to see along the journey.
Right.
Just run your race. And although there is a destination ahead of you, there is a finish line.
Right.
I actually want you to focus more on the process of what's happening for you and in you right now when you're in this part of the race.
That's right.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I hope one of my minister preacher friends take it from here. Tag you're in. Sneaker preach Keith behind us here in the studio. Take it from there. But yes.
So when you think about it, people say the day of running a race is not the difficult part. It's the training. It's the training, because you have to train your mind to say, I can do this. So before I became a marathoner, I would write, I am a marathoner. I journal, I am a marathoner. I put on my tags, I am a marathoner, because I had to train my mind to say, girl, you are a marathoner.
Yes, that's the who goals.
You can run this race. You can do this. You can get through this. And so you have to start that 20 weeks of training is training your mind to say, I am not a quitter. And then when I said I wanted to quit, that's when your squad comes in and says, girl, please, we do this.
Yes.
We do this.
And if I heard you correctly, you wrote that statement, I am a marathoner, before?
Absolutely.
Before you actually ran your first marathon.
Yes.
And I think that's important, because James Clear in Atomic Habits breaks down how you actually develop consistent habits. And it's first by recognizing who you want to be. And so if you begin to say who you want to be, just start with the first action. And he gives this example in the book where the identity of who I want to be is someone who moves consistently, who attends the gym. So literally, he gives the suggestion that you write out who it is you are, and then get your shoes and just go to the gym.
Right.
And then, but the crazy thing is, he says, just go to the gym and then get back in your car and do that for a period of days. And then you get that system, that response that, oh, I'm someone who goes to the gym.
Right.
And then after a period of time, you'll go in and you'll say, I'll stay for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes when people believe that I can't do, it's that all or nothing thinking.
Absolutely.
That will sabotage them.
It will sabotage you. It absolutely will sabotage you. So you think about, it's 20 weeks. You're spending 20, and you don't start at 20 miles. You start at 3. You move up to 5. You move up to 6. You move to 8. You move to 10. And so, like you said, it's chopping that up to say, into those pieces to accomplish the goal. And so, speaking that I am a marathoner, every day I didn't feel like one. And there are plenty of people who whatever you think one looks like may not look like one. And so, you have to visualize what that looks like for you. What's that goal? What is that thing? And start to speak that thing and say, I can do this. I really can. And get around people who are doing it.
Yes.
I can't speak more about, one of my friends said, find your tribe.
Yes.
Because oftentimes we are around naysayers. We're around people say, you can't do that. You can't accomplish that. That's too big.
Right.
26.2 miles. Oh my God, how are you going to run that? Most people say all in one day.
All in one day. Yes, indeed.
Yes, all in one day.
Yes. So I feel like you have capsulated key principles from running that have transferred or transitioned into other areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about Dimiprinciples.
Sure.
What is it, and how is it connected to what you've learned as a runner?
Sure. So I feel like, when your passion and your profession collide, great things can happen. So I have been, as you writing about, I've been teaching financial education throughout my banking career. I've been in banking now 26 years, somewhere in there, and have had the joy of teaching young people, old people, people in the middle about financial education. And so 2019, someone invited me, and it was, great, no problem, I'll come. Early 2020, a WAP sister invited me in and said, hey, I need you to come and teach a class for our women's group. And at that moment, the Lord said, this is yours. This is not the bank's. This is not, where the bank is. This is yours. I want you to own it. And I said, okay, all right. What does that mean? Quickly design. You know how it is. You pull together the content, what it is that they need, what they want, pull it together, and made it mine. And out of it birthed Dimiprinciples. And basically what I've had the pleasure of doing is creating these intimate spaces for women to have candid conversations about finances. And what I found is, in the session that I held in 2019, is that I'm not talking about women who don't know about money, or who don't have money, I should say. I met women who have money or make good money. However, they are still struggling in their finances. So the Lord placed upon my heart that there are successful women out here who are trying to keep up, as we say, keep up with the Joneses, and then they go home and close their door and they are struggling. And so I've created these intimate spaces where women can come in, and I just want to have sister girl conversations about money. Let's be real. Let's have those real conversations so you can get moving to a healthier state of being in your finances.
So powerful. When you think about what's necessary for someone who wants to move forward, I think about something that Lady Dale said last week in her episode of Watering a Thirsty Soul. She said to live forward.
Yes.
And when you want to be able to transfer what you've learned on the asphalt into someone's bank account, what are some key things you want them to understand?
Same principles. One is starting with your mindset. We talked about needing to shift your mindset to get out there and even put the sneakers on, to even make the commitment to go at 5:15. I had to tell myself, I used to say, oh, I'm not a morning person. I don't run at 5. I can't do it. I stopped saying that. I stopped saying that. And so again, we have to stop thinking like, oh, I can't get out of debt. This is just where I am. I don't make enough money. We have to first start with shifting our mindset. And then you're going to use those same principles. You need discipline.
Yes.
the D word, right? You need that discipline to get up the same way I get up every morning or get up 4 times a week, whatever it is, to hit the gym. I have to exercise that same discipline in my finances. You need determination. It's hard. I'm not even going to sit here like, it's hard to make those changes that are needed. It's hard to make the changes that are needed in your health, to stop eating the chips if that's your thing, or to start drinking the water. My goodness, I be on one of my sisters all the time. Drink some water. It's hard to make those shifts, and that determination to go. You need to know your why.
Yes.
The same thing. In your finances, you need to know your why. Some of us want to own homes. We want to drive nice cars. We want to send our children to college. We want to just be out of debt.
Yes.
So what's your why? What's going to drive you to say, I'm not going to do this, but I am going to do that? The same thing. And then that accountability. I talk about my tribe. I talk about my run squad that keeps me accountable. If there's no other day that I run, I at least run once a week, and that's on Thursday. And that's because of the group that I run with. They're consistent. They keep you going. They're like, oh, you're not coming? What do you mean you're not coming? The same thing. You need someone to say, oh, so you want to buy that pocketbook? How much is it?
Yes.
Can you afford it?
Yes.
And
That's
so
those
you need
hard
that
questions.
you need that same accountability. So I found that those same principles that I use to run 26.2 miles, or to even some right now, because I can't run 26.2, to run 3. Let's be honest. To run 3, the same principles that I use them in finance, and I found them to be transferable. And being able to share that with women, to say, girl, you can do this. So when I clap you up when you cross the finish line, I'm going to clap you up when you pay off a credit card.
Yes.
When you accomplish that goal to say I am debt free, or when you accomplish that goal to say I saved $500.
Celebrate at each point.
I'm going to celebrate you at every point, because it took discipline, it took accountability, it took commitment, it took hard work. And I believe in you. I believe that the same way I believe you can run a mile, I believe that you can accomplish these things in your finances as well.
Wow. So how are you learning to, I guess I would say, so what have you learned about yourself at this stage of growth and development?
So what I've learned, one is, when I think about my own finances, right? As the banker, you feel like, well, you must have it all together. Or like you said, when someone look at you and say, you're fit. You don't look like you need to do all of that. It don't take 5 days. Oh yeah, but it does. To have all, it does. I've learned that, one, I've suffered from the shame of or the guilt of, you the banker, you were supposed to know better. You were supposed to do better. How did you find yourself, in this financial situation? And I try to share that with women, because I don't want them to think like, oh, you're just here just to tell me what to do, because I've dealt with it. I've lived that. And so I also live in the freedom of in the financial freedom. So I'm enjoying that as well.
On the flip side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it took hard work, and it didn't happen overnight. I had to make some decisions. I had to change my mindset. I had to let some people go, so that I could do better and feel better, not just physically, but feel better mentally, about where I was, and the things I was carrying, and the people I was like, oh gosh, that's a whole nother segment.
When we started this conversation about you kicking off our July theme, of movement for healing, I knew that there was a lot you would have to share about the physical. I think as you just paralleled the discipline, the determination, and the accountability that has happened in your process of running, it just echoed for me for that person who in their finances, all of the race markers have been removed. And they're saying, I don't know where I should go from here. We have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
I want you to talk to that person who is in their race and the mile markers are gone and they feel lost.
So first is gather it all together. Gather everything together. I want you to pull out the bank statement, all that this bank statements you have not opened, the credit card bill you've just put to the side.
Look in the mirror.
I want you to write down your cousin, your mama, everybody you owe. I need you to pull it all together.
That's scary.
It is. It is. It is, because if you don't know, it's like not knowing your numbers, right?
Or not looking in the mirror.
Or not looking in the mirror. If you don't know, you can't handle this, right? And it may be big. It may seem even bigger than what you really think it is. So it may be some small changes that's going to get you there. But if you don't know, one, I can't help you. I can't help you if you can't be honest with yourself. And so when we talk about, when I talk about those Beatitudes, I need you to be honest. I need you to be transparent, and being transparent, not just with yourself, but you may have to be transparent with someone else so that they can help you, because, shame causes you to hide.
Yes.
It causes you to, to go inside and because you feel like I should have known this. I should be better. And believe me, sis or bro, you're not alone.
You're not alone. I love that. With our last minute, I want to say thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your life lessons that you have shared with all of us, not only for our physical well-being, but for our pocket as well.
Yes.
As well. So thank you, my sister, for sharing this flip side conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. So for those of you who are know someone who needs an opportunity to live forward, whether it be in their physical or their financial, their mental, or their emotional, we encourage you to share this message with them so that they too can make that mind and body connection for their healing. We'll see you next week on the flip side.
You are clear.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
No problem. Have a great week.
You too. All right. Hello, Levon. Well, y'all, you know what? I need to give a shout out because Levon is on the scene. She is our guest for next week. Levon Weaver is going to talk about affirmations. And I can't wait, because people get confused and think that affirmations are just this cheer that you tell yourself, but they actually are steeped in brain science and development. So we're going to unpack all of that next week. So hello, Levon. Hello, Kia. Kia said, yep, you are not alone. I love that. I loved how you just spoke to, because I felt that.
Right.
I felt that.
You're not.
Yes. Who else is here? Hello, Cheryl. She said, real talk. Donna, hello. Donna's launching her business. I'm not going to tell too much because she's going to tell it.
All right. Congratulations.
Yes. Shift your mindset. You need discipline, determination. And yes. Cheryl remembered that the session that you did with the Wild Sisters.
Thanks, Cheryl.
I love it. Hello, Tori. Hello, Kelly. Awesome. Hello, Dale. Find your tribe.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So we always, if you have time, Still got
I
5 more
do.
minutes.
Absolutely.
So we always give a one statement of truth or reflection that just goes to our Facebook family. They are behind the scenes. You talked about Beatitudes, and you shared 3 of them.
I did.
I'd love for you to help us understand a little bit more about Beatitudes.
Sure.
What are they? Where they come from?
Sure.
Why are they?
So I think it was 2018. And I should have thought about it, but was doing a 40-day, I don't know what, I can't remember what book it is, but 40-day prayer book or something or another. And as I went through it, I started creating this B board. So I have what's called a B board at home. And I'm a journaler too. Is that the right journal? And so I started putting these B statements on my board. And so as I would sit, in the morning, I would just look at what I coined my Beatitudes. And so it's what is it? Be proactive, and all of them have a scripture or have something tied to it. And so it's be proactive. Faith without work is dead. Be disciplined. Be courageous. Joshua 1:9.
Yes. Love
Oh
it.
God, be discerning, be bold. I say, Lord, help me to believe that you can answer crazy prayers, those crazy things that we ask. Be fruitful, be giving. I have what's called demi disciplines. And part of my content and finances, I say, at the end, I always close with my demi disciplines, which is, you make money, you give it, you save it, and you invest it. And so be giving, be charitable, because he's given everything that you have. God has given you.
Yes.
And he's given it to you to be a good steward over it. And part of that is about how you give it. For us, we believe it's better to give than it is to receive. So, so you make it, give it, and then he'll leave some for you to keep for yourself. He says you keep the 90.
Yes.
He said, hold on to the 90. Do what you do.
Yeah.
And then you invest it. And so I hold it so that when I sit and start my morning, I can start with these attitudes. I can check myself.
How you want to be.
I can check myself. Be
Yes.
humble. Be discerning. Be a Berean. So, so study.
Yes.
If you want to grow in an area, study it. So be like the Bereans and Acts. What are my other Beatitudes? Be graceful in speech. Girl,
that's a whole podcast by itself.
yeah. I gotta speak the whole book of Proverbs for that one, because I'm not always graceful. And so I need to remind myself, be gracious. You don't know what someone else is going through, and I work with the public.
Yes.
And so therefore I gotta be gracious. And so those are my Beatitudes. So when you see me out of line, be like, girl, get your attitude.
Get your Beatitudes together. give me a Beatitude.
When you catch me slipping out here in the
Yes.
streets.
Oh, thank you, sister.
Oh, thank you.
I so appreciate you. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Didn't she do well? All right, Facebook fam, give her some hearts, give her some hugs, give her some love. She did amazing. Make sure you share, like, give people to follow the episode.
Yes, because they have blessed me. They have really blessed me. I said, Dr. Will, I was ready to cut her off.
You
I was
know,
like,
she got all in the business.
Yeah.
All in the business.
Yeah, I had to go back to my chart on Jefferson. Like, what? Let me make sure I got these numbers.
I love you so much. Facebook family, thank you so much always for your support. Please like and share. And for those of you who have not registered for Refueling Your Soul Girlfriend Gathering Session 4, check out my Facebook page or livingstrongllc.com. We are closing registration July 19th. So make sure you grab a spot in person or virtual. We would love to be a part of your accountability circle or tribe. Love you much. We will see you next week. Say bye. Look up.
Oh, bye.